For those just joining. For those just joining us this morning, we are live from Lake Quinsigamond in Worcester, Massachusetts. This is the New England Junior High School and Masters Championships, Day 2. Coming through the finish line right now are the last of the few entries from the men's first varsity 4, with the second varsity 4 coming in just behind him. As it stands right now, unofficially, we have CRI at the top of the junior category and Kent School at the top of the high school category for the first 4s. We'll see what both programs can do in the second varsity 4 coming up. "18 entries in this event here. This is number 44. We'll kick off the day with the men's varsity 4s, followed by the women's varsity 4s. Yesterday we saw masters racing in between some high school events and middle school events. But today it's just all about the juniors. Good conditions today. Nice fall day. Doesn't look like there's too much current or flow of anything. Yesterday we saw a little bit of a headwind in the morning, finishing with a bit of a tail, making great racing conditions for this fall season. These crews are going to be prepping for the head of the Charles Regatta coming up in just a few short weeks. And switching viewpoints here, we've now moved from Regatta Point more towards the bridge, marking 2,000 meters left of the race. This is going backwards of a traditional sprint course that's usually held at this venue. Crews making a strong push here. Once they come into view through the bridge, it's really just a straight shot down, unlike a lot of other head courses that we see. This is a straight shot, no turns. Coxswains will have the ability to pick their point and really just follow it down without doing too much on the rudder to get them there. These 4s categories this morning, you're going to see a mixture of both high school and junior. They'll be grouped together in the overall results, but you can break it down to see the leader of both. A lot of local Massachusetts programs coming in here, as well as Greater New England, representation from Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Busy morning here on the beaches at Regatta Point here in Worcester, Massachusetts. We see the men's varsity 4 starting to return. CRI remaining top crews unofficially in both the men's first and second varsity 4, leading both the event as well as the overall junior categories. Kent School being the top high school crew out of the first varsity 4, and CRLS out of Cambridge being the top of the second. We're starting to round out the men's 4s category. The third and fourth varsity 4s, total of 9 entries, are coming down the course as we speak with about halfway to go. And the women's varsity 4s are behind them. And we start to see all the novice 8s lining up on the beach ready to launch. This event has grown significantly over the past 2 years with a total of 508 entries spanning over the past 2 days, between yesterday and today, from over 55 different clubs. And here we'll pick up the first of the women's varsity 4s coming through the bridge. Good swing here by these ladies here. Second half of the race, they're starting to feel it. This will be the crew from Blood Street Skulls coming through. "25 entries in this event. Just as we saw as the men's varsity 4, mix of high school and junior. A lot of New England representation, a lot of crews as well being on their home course here on Lake Quinsig. Beautiful camera shot here as we start to see one crew try and close the gap in between the bow ball ahead of them, their bow number ahead of them. The smaller the gap, the more time that they've made up from the start. Nice bucket rig here that we can see. That middle pair rowing on both the same sides. Couple different advantages to that type of rig. It's easier for the middle pair certainly to follow, but also if you're trying to balance out strength in between, It gives each side a little bit more of an equal distribution and ownership over the force that's created. Most of these crews here will have spent a significant amount of time on this body of water, being both in the fall and the spring. Lake Quinsigamond is home to a handful of really popular fall races, as we've already seen this year. And come springtime, every weekend, it's usually packed with some sort of either junior or collegiate competition, whether it's championship season closer to the end of May, early June, or traditional duels that are held by visiting programs. This body of water certainly sees its fair amount of action with all of the crews that come to take some strokes and get to the finish line. Good surge here. Coxswain's making calls on their crew to say that they're walking on that other boat, knowing that they're definitely moving up in the ranks. They obviously won't know their final finish placement until after the race when all the times have been sorted. But great move here from that boat on the inside in the white. Stroke by stroke, just really pushing together, really just moving that other boat out of their line of sight. But not to be disregarded, on the inside of that crew, that white boat is looking to make some big headway by not only passing one, but passing two. Good send there. With 2,000 meters to go, there's still plenty of room to change that finish order. It's all about who's going to want it more. Straight line to the finish line here. Coxswain's got a pretty easy job with just really directing his or her crew. And a pretty large gap all the way back to pick up that next crew that's going to come through the bridge. Bow number 334 crossing the finish line here. These are the ladies from Babusick Lake. We're just about rounding out the first women's varsity 4 as it stands right now. Top 4 spots are split between Connecticut and Massachusetts. We've got Windsor currently in the first place with Bromfield Axe and Boxborough in third. Second and fourth go to Blood Street Skulls and Norwalk River Rowing. So we've got a Massachusetts-Connecticut split. We'll see a handful of these crews again coming up in a few weeks at head of the Charles, so this is a nice warm-up run here. Crews are probably closer to their lineups than not. Coxswain's starting to sharpen their skills, sharpen their calls a bit. Talk about a fight to the line here. There's 4 crews in this camera shot here. They're coming into the last few strokes. It's going to be just a really big push, especially for those 2 crews battling it out in the middle. But wow, good push to round out this event. We've got the second women's varsity 4s coming in right behind them. Again, a lot of these crews are going to have seen each other already, if not, next week and the week after, from being pretty local. Even here you see 2 different boat hull designs. You've got one stern-loaded 4, one coxed 4, or one bow-coxed 4, giving the coxswains different perspectives. Coxswain in the stern having a little bit more of an advantage seeing their crew and kind of helping perfect their crew, whereas the coxswain in the bow is going to go a lot more by feel. Good finish here by these entries here. Really great conditions to post up a decent time. We've already got one team, that's Windsor, that has broken 17 minutes for the event. The only one so far. Everybody else following within about a 10-second gap. Blood Street Skulls about 12 seconds off of Windsor's time here. 4 more entries to go in this event. And it's still going to be those top 4s holding on to the fastest times as of yet in the women's varsity 4, with Windsor, Blood Street Skulls, Bromfield, Axton, Boxborough, and Norwalk River Rowing rounding out those top 4. Crew from Windsor here with that infamous W on the end of their blade. crew in the shot here. Bound number 339 is Northampton crew. So this is the second bound number of the women's second varsity 4. Northampton finishing with a pretty substantial gap ahead of the other bound numbers behind them. Bound number 345 approaching here. These are going to be the ladies from Marianopolis. Bound number 346 here, Lewis Mills High School. And the ladies in blue, good row ladies. And the first few bound numbers of that second varsity 4 really doing a nice job in setting the precedent. There's a substantial gap between those first couple that just went through and the entries behind them. Bound number 351, that was Pioneer Valley Riverfront Club out of Massachusetts. Another tight pack here coming into the last push of their race. There's 3 boats here with only about 20 strokes to go. It's anyone's game, but it looks like that boat out in front is going to retain their lead. Great shot there of all of the women's varsity 4s returning to the dock on the far side, as well as these 3 coming into the finish. Another stern coxed 4 here. You see the coxswain sitting back in the stern as opposed to laying down in the front and the bow. It's great to see lots of people on both the docks of the DRC and down at Regatta Point today. Definitely a lot more people here than there were yesterday. It looks like there's a bit of a break here between the end of the women's 4s and the start of the men's novice 8s. The next handful of events are going to go towards the novice crews, both 8s and 4s. We'll see the 8s first, men's and then women's. And then we'll get into the novice 4s. For some, this may be their first race, and taking their first strokes in a competitive setting, especially in the fall, where a lot of them will have just joined rowing just a mere short weeks ago. Big learning curve, lots to learn here with the start of a very exciting career in the sport. No sight of the men's novice 8s yet from the finish here. We'll go ahead and pan back up towards Regatta Point. Lots of 8s on the beach here, starting to get ready for that next set of novice 8s, going into the second varsity 8s. A great day to be out on the shore. And we start to see the first of the men's novice 8s coming through the bridge here. Total of 22 entries in this event. There may have been a pretty big gap from when we saw the end of the women's 4s to the men's novice 8s, but here they come in full charge. 4 boats in screen right now. Again, they're going to get to this point, and for most of these athletes, maybe not the novices, they're going to be used to that 2,000 meter distance. So when the coxswain makes those calls, they can really start to anticipate that end of the race, that finish, that final push. Here you can see CRI on the inside and looking to make a move. You know, take seat by seat that both coxswains are looking over. Yeah, good swing here in the novice 8s. For a lot of these young athletes, it's going to be the first time that they're going to be in a teamwork position type of idea, where some of them may have come from playing individual sports such as tennis or cross country, but here that idea of one stroke, one push is going to be very important for these young athletes to master moving forward. But great shot here of these 3 boats. Just, it's anyone's game with still about 1,500 meters left in this race. You still have CRI, red boat, the red unis. Oops, small crab there. Can they get it back and retain that lead? But it's anyone's game. We'll catch those 3 boats coming into the finish in just a little bit. Good controlled rhythm out of this crew here. Looks like the coxswain just made a big call, maybe a power 10, maybe a call for the legs. Try and get a little bit more juice coming into this last stretch of the race here. He's thinking straight shot to the finish line. Switching cameras here, we've now transitioned over to the DRC, where we see 4 crews coming into that finish. This is going to be that pack that we saw just a little bit ago come through the bridge. They're into the last stretch. This lead crew here coming into their last 30 strokes. Still looking to retain that lead. Good row here, all athletes. Nice push right at the end. We come back and there's still an opportunity for the boys of CRI to try and close that gap. But the boat in front of them, this boat here in blue, is going to make a strong effort to really increase that gap, asserting their bell ball first across the line. CRI in their renowned red unis, red hulls. Another good push to the finish here. Coxswain here getting super animated, really asking for the very most, the very last bit of energy that their crew has to get them right across the line. Switching back over to the bridge here, we're going to start to see some of the women's 8s here in just a bit. Out of the initial times that are posted, East Lyme posting the fastest time as of yet, followed by CRI and Wayland Weston. Another fight to the line here. The men's novice 8. Both coxswains looking over, asking for more from their crew. the boat behind, saying that we still have time, but we've got to go. But I think they're just going to run out of room, finishing the last couple strokes here. Unfortunately, it looks like this 8 that's coming into the finish right now is a bit of a technical difficulty. You see that 6-man not rowing, still holding on to his oar. Strong surge here, as you can see on your screen, really staying long coming into the back end of the stroke. This course does give a bit of an advantage at the finish, having such a wide line that hulls can cross. No one's really fighting to get to the exact point. There's plenty of space where each coxswain can take a straight line and just really focus in on getting the most out of their crew without trying to use the rudder. Great shot across the line of those 3 boats. That's really going to depend on the bow numbers here. If that was a sprint race, that might be just a photo finish here. But the boat in green certainly asserting their dominance here. This is certainly going to give these athletes a lot more to work on for the rest of the season, going into the winter and even the spring. With the last of the times coming in unofficially, it is CRI, Wayland Weston, Bedford, St. John's, and Avon are your top 5 places in the men's novice 8. CRI with a substantial gap between next place Wayland Weston and second, 17 seconds. In your view right now, there's Bromfield, Acton, Boxborough. Rounding out the last of the men's novice 8s here. This is the men's second novice 8. This is going to be Farmington High School crossing the finish line here. We've already seen the women's novice 8s come through the bridge. Those first bound numbers of this event are going to be about 750 meters out. You can see them coming down the big stretch here. Pretty substantial gap between each entry. Not to be confused with the crews heading straight to the dock right now, those that are returning. "17 entries in this event for the women's novice 8, first novice 8. Coxon asking more from her crew, more from the ladies of CRI. Bound number 394. Coming into view here, we've got Bromfield, Acton, Boxborough. Good rhythm for a novice crew here. Still see a handful of heads looking out of the boat, kind of asking where's the finish line. Coxon's gonna get them all the way there. Good rhythm. Good rhythm. We span back. Both CRI and Bromfield, Axton, Boxborough have really put a nice gap in between the crew coming up into view right now. As it stands with the first 3 crews that have crossed the line, we have CRI posting the fastest time of the event so far, with still another 12 bound numbers to come across. As it stands, it's CRI in 17:08, Hingham High School in 17:16, and Bromfield, Acton, Boxborough in 17:20. Again, these are all unofficial. Here you have Wayland Weston, another local Massachusetts crew in the area. Nice solid swing into the finish here. The recognizable orange and maroon. followed by Norwalk River Rowing here in the red hull. Big pack coming into the last 500 meters here. We see 4 crews on the course. Looks like a bit of oversteering from one of the far crews in the foreground, or in the background, I should say. Coxswain's just calling for more in this last little bit here. For a lot of these, this will be their first race. Something to certainly remember, but also giving these athletes future motivation to be able to work a little bit harder and to get that much faster in the upcoming weeks. These 4 crews making their way to the finish line. Oh, almost a small crowd there. Looks like this inside boat is really making a big surge to try and really squeeze out these last couple seconds here. Oh, but another crab caught by the 3 seat of the inside boat here. We'll have to wait for times to be posted for the final verdict. Crew from East Lyme just there. With only about 3 or 4 bound numbers left to come in, it's still CRI that stands as the fastest time out of the event so far. Hingham still just behind him by 8 seconds. Then Bromfield, Axton, Boxborough, Norwalk River Rowing, and Wayland Weston are your top 5 finishers of this event, with 4 more entries to be posted. Anything can happen. One of these last bound numbers can certainly make their charge from the back of the pack, not knowing what's going on in the front, just as those who have already finished have no idea what's really going on with the entries in the back. The novice women from Avon here coming into the finish line. These ladies traveling up from Connecticut, just outside of Hartford. Great racing here. First women's novice 8 is going to feed directly into the women's second novice 8. Coming into view now, this is bound number 406, CRI, the first of the second novice 8. They're going to hopefully look to replicate what their first novice 8 did and still holding strong to that first place in the event prior. CRI will be the first of 6 bound numbers to come across in the women's second novice 8. Good swing here to finish up that day here. Another CRI boat here. Coming through the line, bound number 411. A lot of depth to that program, so we've seen 3 novice women's 8s come through there. It's going to look like Shrewsbury coming through the line here. The ladies of Bedford here, coming across the line, the orange hull. Cambridge Ridge in Latin, another Boston-based program here. We have the novice women of Bromfield, Axton, Boxborough coming into view now, crossing the line. And as it stands now, waiting for one last time to come through, we have CRI with the fastest time in the women's second novice 8 and a time of 18:14.8, followed by Shrewsbury High School and CRI B after a 2-minute penalty that took them from second to third place, posting a raw time of 18:42 but relegated to 42.2. And with that being said, the final time has been included from Bromfield and has bumped CRI B out of medal contention here. So out of the 6 crews, we have CRI in first, Shrewsbury in second, Bromfield, Axton, Boxborough in third, CRI B in fourth, Bedford in fifth, and Cambridge Ridge in Latin in 6th place to round out your women's second novice 8. The last events before we break here are going to come back to the 4s. We've got the men's novice 4s first, followed by the women's. These again are just going to be athletes starting their careers. For some of them it will be their first race, so a lot of pre-race jitters. Some of them may have raced earlier this season. 17 entries in the men's first novice 4. And they are through the bridge here. Picking him up as they row by Regatta Point Park. We start to see these gaps both closing and opening. The yellow boat here on the inside of this course is trying to close the gap between the crew in front of him. That crew in front of him certainly reacting right now. Looks like the coxswain called for a power move to retain their seats and retain their position here. Another good fight here. Bow ball and bow ball, coxswain to coxswain here with these 2 4s. The white boat on the inside overtaking that of the red boat on the far side. Both boats still going neck and neck, but it's going to be that inside boat, the white hull with the green blades. Looks like from East Bay. It's going to completely overtake that red boat, not only in time closing that gap, but also clearing their bow ball in just a few short strokes here. Substantial gap back to the next bow behind them. But another boat on boat here. You see the boys in the yellow hull really just pushing off those foot stretchers, trying to get that length, trying to get that bend in the oar, and just coming into frame here. This black hull is going to try and overtake not only one but two crews by the end of the race. And by the way that they're rowing, the way that they're swinging, that's going to be an easy feat for them if they really keep it up. The boys in blue on the far side certainly trying to increase their rate to try and keep that speed up, maintain that speed here. But both the crews in the yellow and the black hull nearest towards the camera here are continuing to push, continuing to stretch that gap. Here we see another stern coxed fore, where that coxswain is going to change positions from lying down on the bow, the front of the boat, to sitting in the back of the stern. We'll stay with the crews that are just coming through the bridge here before we switch over to the finish. Crew from Whalen Western right there, that recognizable pattern on the oars with the orange and maroon split. Followed by Duxbury Bay Maritime School. Good long stretch there. Looks like a bit of a bobble here in this white boat. And these athletes are still honing in on their skills of the mechanics of the sport, how to swing, how to push, how to generate force. But as we can see, the more in sync that they become, the easier it is for that boat to pick up speed and just continue to soar. Looks like the first of our men's novice crews are crossing into about 750 meters to go here, about halfway between Regatta Point and the DRC. And we'll start to pick up the crews as they come into the finish here. This final stretch, final push, about 30 strokes to go from here. If they can really get the blades in, really get some nice bend on them. Coming into view here, this is going to be the boys of Bromfield Axton Boxborough. Nice push. You can see them that they've pushed up the cadence a bit, upping their rate. Looking to drop the hammer or empty those tanks as they come into the finish. Just ahead. Coming into view here, we've got Worcester Academy in the maroon hull. A lot of good swing here. If they can stay together and really just work on getting the blades in together, nice crisp catches, they'll have a nice push to really get them into these final strokes. Northampton Community Rowing coming up here. Coxswain certainly looking around from side to side. This is going to be bow 418, East Bay, coming across the line. Closely followed by Neaponset in the red hull at the bottom of the screen. Arlington Belmont here in the maroon with the white oars from just up the road. Two crews here charging each other to the finish line. In the near boat, we've got bow number 422. That's Duxbury Bay Maritime School. Nice push here, good sprint. You can see the increase in cadence. Yellow hull, that's going to be Babusick Lake Rowing Club. This is going to be Medford coming through here. Medford, Massachusetts, rowing up on the Mystic River, just up off of 93. Another local Massachusetts crew. Bow number 419, Pioneer Valley Riverfront Rowing. Looks like there was some sort of a hiccup. You see the 3-man out of bow number 421 not rowing right now. That's a crew from Whalen Weston. Everything looks to be intact, but we'll have to wait for the final report to see what happened. Bow number 417 coming through the line now. This is Coventry Lake Community Rowing out of Connecticut. The last of the men's novice 4 crews will be sharing the river now as we start to welcome the ladies under the last 2,000 meters here at Lake Quinsigamond in Worcester, Massachusetts, on day 2 of the 13th annual New England Junior and Masters Championships. Today is all about the juniors. We saw middle school and masters rowing yesterday. Today, this is all really for the high school aged athletes, both novice and varsity. So this will be the last event before the upcoming break. We'll welcome the women's novice fours, the 15 entries down the course, before we then embark on an afternoon of varsity racing. Coming across the line now is another entry from Medford. With the remaining 2 bound numbers left from this event, it currently stands as Norwalk River Rowing posted the fastest time in 17:18, a full 50 seconds ahead of second place Brewster Academy, followed by Bromfield Axton Boxborough, Arlington Belmont, and Pioneer Valley Riverfront Club, rounding out your top 5. Out of those top 5, Norwalk being the only non-Massachusetts crew. Everyone else is very local to the event and local to the venue. Bound number 15 in sight here. This is the crew from Eagle Hill. Switching back over to our viewpoint from Regatta Point Park, 3 crews in view from the women's junior high school first novice 4. As they come through the bridge, these crews are going to experience a bit of a crosswind, coming right past Regatta Point, right past most of the spectators that are standing on the beach. Wayland Weston, Women's Novice 4, into view now. Nice long controlled stroke rating here. Getting some good length together. We start to see the first of the women's novice 4s approach the finish line here in the last 500 meters. within eyesight of the dock. Looks like they're going to continue to travel on that pack coming into the finish here. Crews are going to start to make their last moves, make their final push to get them to the line, get as much time off as possible, continue to surge their bow balls forward here. And again, a pretty easy end to a race, not worrying about turning or any funneling coming down to the main point. From here, the coxswains can really just draw their line, come off the rudder, and just focus in on maintaining and building that speed, maximizing that speed with the remaining meters left. Bow 437 here, coming into view from Great Bay. East Bay Rowing here, finishing their race in the green Vespoli. Quite a substantial gap coming back into the next two bow numbers. Looks like some good pacing here. Coming out of this crew, this looks like Northampton out of Massachusetts. Bow number 440. Boat's got some nice smooth run on it as they finish up. Followed by bow 432 from Brewster Academy. See that they do have a penalty. That's going to add a full 2 minutes onto their finish. With 8 bow numbers to go, so far it is Glastonbury. It's posted up as the fastest time of the event in 1930. With the next closest person being Great Bay in 1956. Glastonbury being a high school program, Great Bay being a junior program. Overall, they will go 1-2 so far. But shown separately, they will each take their respective group distinctions. Bow number 445, this is the Windsor School. Local to the Charles here. They're recognizable W's on the ends of their oars. Looks like they changed their cadence too and are giving it a really good push here in these last few strokes. It's going to be about 4:33 coming into view here, getting it right back after a little bit of a hiccup. Good recovery here. Coxon from bound number 434. This is Neaponset getting really into it. You can see her shaking her hand, really asking for more. Bound number 441 coming into view here. This is Coventry Lake Community Rowing. Based out of Connecticut, they share a waterway with the men's and women's programs from University of Connecticut in Storrs, Connecticut. Bound number 434 here. Excuse me, 443. There's Waylon Weston finishing up here. Following up this last boat that's on the course here, we will see a break in racing. The next race will start at 11:20. We've already seen a handful of the crews start to launch from both Regatta Point and the DRC. But the start time will not be for another 18 minutes, so we won't see them at Regatta Point for probably close to another 28. Again, pretty good conditions here down on Lake Quinsigamond in Worcester. Lake Quinsigamond played home to the Junior and Master Championships this weekend and will attract another crowd and another audience next weekend for the Quinsigamond Snake Regatta, which is a popular collegiate event, drawing crews in from the New England and tri-state areas. But it's great to see people lining the banks, both at DRC and Regatta Point today, supporting the next generation of rowers. Here's bow 443. This is Eagle Hill crossing the line now. Well rowed, ladies. We will return with our live feed in just about 20 minutes. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the New England Junior and Master Championships, Day 2 on Sunday. We're live from Worcester, Massachusetts, Lake Quinsigamond. We're kicking off the afternoon racing with the second varsity 8s for the women. We see Waylon Weston in the focus screen now, coached by Mike Baker. Massachusetts local, just outside of Boston. On your screen now, we see Glastonbury High School out of Connecticut. A strong Connecticut high school public program. They do pretty well at Connecticut State Championships each year come spring. And with the change in 8s, we're going to see a greater level of technical efficiency as compared to the novice rowers. These rowers have had at least some experience, gone through the novice year, or their novice year, the majority of the time. Some will just skip and go straight into varsity. But the more skilled rowers we'll see here have a better and greater understanding of what it means to push a boat, to work as a team, to really generate that speed, mastering the mechanics of the sport, the movement from the catch to the finish here. A lot of these crews, too, will have competed at the highest junior levels, whether it's selected athletes from the junior national team all the way down to youth national participants. The New England area is home to some pretty elite junior rowing, and this will just be a taste of it from what we can see here. A lot of these athletes will be familiar with the course, coming through the bridge, knowing that it's just a simple 2K, just all the way up to the top. Simple, in the greater scheme of things with head racing, but come spring, that 2K is not so simple. For head races, you usually see crews rate maybe a little bit lower than the spring season, where they've really got to pace themselves. They're focusing in on their endurance, their consistency with the rhythm, with the cadence. So we'll see them base anywhere between a 30 to a 36 come head racing for the majority of crews. But come springtime, we'll see those rates jump higher up, closer to 40, just by nature of what the coach is looking for, the strategy that they're looking for, the strategy that they're looking to execute and to rise to the level of competition. But here's some good swing seen here from the ladies in the green hull, coming just through the bridge. And we'll start to pan over towards the finish line, where we can see these crews really come down to the last push of their racing campaign today. Great shot here of crews returning home. Crews starting to warm up to the start line here as other crews continue to race down. Looks like first crew coming into view here is going to be bow number 453, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be CRI coming out of Boston. Head coach is Sky Elliott. He's been there for a couple years and been able to produce some top performing crews, both at youth nationals within big boats over the years as well as small boats. So we can always expect a pretty deep field from programs like CRI that have not just one, not just two, but upwards of 4 varsity 8s just in their varsity program alone. Their novice program this morning saw some really great results. Head coached by Lily Carbeck, taking first in both the first and second categories of the novice 8. So we can expect kind of good things coming down the pipeline from there. CRI opening a pretty substantial gap in front of local rivals. It looks like Waylon Weston coming down with the orange and maroon, head coach Mike Baker. Waylon Weston has also been successful at youth nationals over the years, particularly in the lightweight women's 4s and small boats. But from here, their second 8 looking solid here. Moving together, getting the blades in together. Good row, Waylon Weston. Approaching the line here is going to be bound number 459, Glastonbury, out of Glastonbury, Connecticut. Coming into view, coming into the finish is going to be Norwalk River Rowing. Bound number 449 out of the southern part of Connecticut, Norwalk, Connecticut. They share a body of water with a handful of other successful New England crews down along the shoreline. Approaching now, we have Greater Lawrence. It's going to be bow number 455. Another local Massachusetts program here. Coming into view is going to be bow number 450. This is East Lyme Rowing Association, coached by head coach Scott Mahan. This crew here in the light green hull making a really nice surge towards the finish line Increase in cadence, rates come up a bit. Coxon's got her crew dialed in, really focused in on just making the most out of these last few strokes here. Followed closely behind it's going to be Simsbury High School, the dark blue and yellow gold stripe out of Connecticut. Simsbury is followed by other Connecticut local rival Farmington High School here in the maroon boat. And just on their tail, CRI is starting to inch that gap, close that gap as they make the final push towards the finish. And folks that are just joining in, so we are on the second women's varsity 8. That's also going to be followed by the third and fourth women's varsity 8s. So we will likely see programs have multiple entries coming in here. It seems like we may have gotten a bit out of order. But nonetheless, these are good fights coming into the finish, and they will be divided up and allocated into their own events on the results page posted on herenow.com. Boat closest to us here is going to be, looks like bound number 458. That's East Bay. East Bay coached by head coach Ann Strayer. And times have started to filter in. As it stands right now, CRI has posted the fastest time unofficially of 16:03, a full minute ahead of place number 2, bound number 448, Wayland Weston. 2 junior programs will take the top 2 spots if nothing else changes for the rest of the event, followed by 2 high school programs that will be Bedford and Glastonbury, rounding out 3rd and 4th. Again, all of these results are posted on herenow.com, and they are unofficial. But as it stands, that's a pretty substantial margin between place 1 and 2. Coming into view now is going to be bound number 462. That is Simsbury. That's going to be their 3rd varsity 8. Followed by bound number 465. That's Norwalk River Rowing out of Connecticut. Switching back over to the feed coming off of Regatta Point. These are the crews that are just coming outside of the bridge, entering that last straightaway of the 2,000 meters on Lake Quinsigamond. Racing the clock to get to the DRC, Donahue Rowing Center. Nice controlled, relaxed swing here by all athletes. You see a nice long arm draw. Athletes really looking to suspend off that handle strong cores, and following through that handle all the way into the finish. Really nice job by these athletes. Switching back over to the finish, this looks like bow 470 crossing. That's going to be Hingham High School, coached by Sydney Blassetti. Followed by another charging crew from Community Rowing in Brighton, Massachusetts. That's going to be bow 472. Entering into their last 1,500 meters, it looks like East. Looks like Bedford Community Rowing, Bedford Crew Club. Results through event number 53 have been marked as official, meaning that the referees have signed off and that they approve of everything that was recorded, the times that were recorded, the penalties that were assigned. Full results can be found on herenow.com. And that is events through 53, so through the first novice men's 4 at 10:25. We're starting to see results come in for the second and third and fourth women's varsity 8s. But please note that they are marked as unofficial and will remain so until a formal sign-off has been complete. East Lyme High School coming into view here, coached by Scott Mahan. This is also a program that's got some pretty significant depth, having seen some performances both in the 4s, Novice 8s, as well as the varsity 8s now. Followed closely by about 464, that's Duxbury Bay Maritime School. Farmington High School here, coming into view. This is about 473. This is the women's 4th varsity 8. Farmington High School also showing a lot of depth today, having 4 women's 8s entered in today's event so far. Bedford High School coming here into view. This is going to be about 474. And this will round out the end of the women's 8s. Following these women's 8s, we'll start the same procession as we had with the women's 8, starting with the men's 2nd, going to the 3rd and 4th varsity 8s before switching back over to the first 8s to finish out the day. Well rowed, Bedford. Unofficially, it stands that CRI has swept the women's 8s in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th varsity 8s. In the 2nd varsity 8, top 3 finishers are CRI, Wayland Weston, and Bedford. In the 3rd varsity 8, top 3 finishers are CRI, Bedford, and East Lyme. In the 4th varsity 8, your finish order for the 4 entries will go CRI, CRI-B, Bedford, and Farmington High School. On deck, we have a bit of a break here at the finish until the men's 2nd varsity 8. We'll go ahead and switch over back to Regatta Point Park, where they're already coming through. In view here, you can see CRI. Nice shot here of two crews going stroke for stroke. Looking to assert their dominance here. Fighting to keep their bow ball ahead. To take seats. One of the best calls those coxswains can make is we're walking. We're moving on them. And it looks like the inside boat, that yellow boat, is making some pretty good headway on that red one. Coming into view here, we've got solid 3-pack of boats. CRI looking to move up on that far boat there, taking seat by seat. East Bay Rowing, just about 2 lengths off of CRI. Not completely out of the mix, but they're going to have some work to do to start to close that gap. Switching back over to the finish, we'll meet these crews as they come in. As you can see, a lot more control than the Novice crews that we've seen so far. Just by virtue of having more time in the boat, more experience. Coming into view, it's going to look like Bedford and Farmington. Good fight all the way down. Both crews not letting any time, any space. Another 8 from CRI here, charging to that finish line. Really looking just to leave it all out. Thinking about moving the boat, placing the oar, and just moving the boat around the oar here. Good row. And here we have the crew. Looks like this is going to also be a Bedford crew. This will likely be bow number 480. These crews really giving it a lot towards the finish here. Good angle here. If I was one of those 3 coxswains, really asking my crew to dig a little bit deeper. Right? You're just almost there, really not letting up, holding on to that as long as you can, knowing that you're racing the clock, more so than the boat next to you. "22 entries in this event for the men's second varsity 8. 13 times posted so far, so we're just over halfway. And as it stands right now, CRI is posting the fastest time in a time of 14:03, followed by St. John's Prep in 15:01. Great Bay charging towards the finish line right here. Increase in rate, increase in cadence. Staying pretty controlled. Good push here. Good push here to really finish that off. You don't want to let up right before the finish line. Coxswains are going to be looking to pick up that line, row through the buoys. I love what I'm seeing coming down now. Look at that. It looks like almost 6 different boats in view right now. What I like about this course, if you're just tuning in, is that it's a straight shot. Lake Quinsigamond is home and hosts a handful of different championships at varying levels, both at the junior and collegiate level. And for the sprint season, it's a great venue. For the head racing season, for coxswains to have this straightaway in the last 2,000 meters, they can take their steering hats off a bit, focusing in on just holding their line and just giving a lot more free speed back to the crew. Every time that coxswain turns the rudder, it does put some resistance on the crew. So to keep your crew going in just a straight line, just have water go right off that fin, it's going to put you at a huge advantage. Really nice push towards the end. Man, another good fight here to the finish. It looks like this inside crew, that blue entry, is going to overtake that far crew. It's anyone's game when it comes down to that. But if you're the bound number behind somebody and you overtake them, then that's going to put you in a very successful spot. So it's possible that we'll start to see some bleed in from the men's third eights coming up as we round out the second varsity eights. It's like about 495, Arlington Belmont coming through the line now. Followed by bound number 483, that's East Bay in the green on the far edge of your screen. A push to the end here. See that far boat really jack up that cadence, really just trying to make a statement right before they run out of time. That's going to be Hingham High School on that far side. Bound number 502, CRI. It's going to look like about 496. That was Simsbury High School. Unofficially, for the men's second varsity 8, it's going to be your top 3 finishers with CRI, St. John's Prep, and St. John's High School. Waylon Weston leading that charge here. Greater Lawrence finishing off their race here, coming into the finish. Good effort by both these crews, really looking to empty their tanks coming into the last few strokes of their race today. We'll start to see a little bit of bleed through from the 4th varsity 8 for the men's. Rounding out the last of the men's fourth varsity 8 is going to be Farmington High School, crossing into the finish line as we speak, with the first entry of the women's first varsity 8 on the course and already through the bridge. It's going to be led by bow number 522 from CRI, followed by bow 523 on your screen now from Waylon Weston. And here seen in the blue coming into the last 2,000 meters is this blue boat from Glastonbury, coached by Jason Post. Coming up out of Connecticut, Glastonbury opened a brand new boathouse within the past couple of years down on the Connecticut River, giving them a new training facility, top of the line location, a really great place to be, and just up the river from a handful of college programs as well as local community programs like Riverfront Recapture. Coming into view now here in the black hull with the white unis is going to be bow number 525, Bromfield Axton Boxborough. And a handful of these women's 8s moving in a pack now that they're in the last 2,000 meters. For a lot of them, this is going to seem very familiar. They will have been here at whether it's Massachusetts Public Championships, whether it's NERAs, NEIRAs, or regional championships. This is going to look pretty familiar to them, but just going the opposite way than they're usually used to. These crews are going to be all about maintaining and pacing while still pushing themselves. We'll see a handful of these crews coming up in the next few weeks at head of the Charles as they look to zoom around the bridges of the Charles. But here they've got a pretty open field to work with. Coxswain's going to be calling for technical changes and ratio shifts to make sure that boat's running well. A greater emphasis at different parts of the stroke, whether it's catch or really following through into the finish. It's really going to depend on the coach's preference. But as you can see, there's a big increase in the mastery of skill. These athletes will have been in the boat longer, some of them years. Some of them maybe have just started and made the switch over. But great shot here of these 3 boats really pushing each other to try and move up. You see that inside hull in the light blue really making up huge ground on the white boat sitting in the middle of those two. That's a really good press, really good strength shown by that light blue hull closest to the camera here. Nobody's looking to give up. Everybody's looking to really hang on it and to stay with each other, pushing each other, knowing that they're more than halfway done with this race. And now's where they can start to really grind into those next level of gears, that next level down into the pain cave, looking to drop the hammer. We're going to go ahead and shift over and pick up our friends at the finish line so we can see what happens with these battles. Great shot here of just where we are in Worcester, looking down the course. You're going to see Regatta Point Park on the far opposite side of the screen. And we'll look to pick up our first boat here. Good pace here. These should be the ladies of CRI, bound number 522. So this will mark the 5th 8 for community rowing today in the women's 8 categories. These women look to hold on to that first place, that first bow number to cross the line, giving it their all and crossing their fingers that nobody sneaks up from behind in the back. Good looking swing from head coach Sky Elliott. Well rowed, ladies. Bow 522, crossing the line as we speak. And next up here should be the ladies from Wayland Weston, another local Massachusetts favorite crew. Coached up by Mike Baker. What's unique about Wayland Weston is that their training facility is actually only about 1,500 meters long. So to practice for something like this, they're making the most out of trying to go laps around the lake without trying to stop and spin. But we got to hand it to these athletes. That's no small feat. Programs that practice on Lake Quinsigamond, like Shrewsbury High School, St. John's High School, and people that practice on the Charles have extensive waterways to be able to practice endurance rows without trying to stop and spin. So Wayland Weston, being as efficient as they can, really start to show their strength here as they add on to those laps that they may do at home. Well rowed by Mike Baker's crew. Coming in, this likely will be Glastonbury coming up out of Connecticut. Good push here. That coxswain just called for an increase in cadence. You can see that they got a little bit shorter on their overall length, but they're moving together. That bow starting to continue to surge. The ladies in blue making a final push into the finish here to finish off their campaign today. Well rowed, Glastonbury. Head coach by Jason Post again. Nice steady rhythm here by this upcoming hull. It's going to be Duxbury Bay Maritime School by Ollie Rosenblatt, head coach. Another pretty close pack coming here in the next wave of women's varsity 8s here in Worcester, Massachusetts on Lake Quinsigamond. And the second to last event of the New England Junior and Masters Championships. This is going to be Bromfield Acton Boxborough out in front on the far side in the white unis. Blue hull, coached by Holly Hatton. Good, steady, tight, compact stroke there. Spanning back, this is going to be Simsbury High School out of Connecticut, coached by Ann Carabillo. Followed by East Lyme High School, or East Lyme Rowing Association, coached by Scott Mahan. And this is the crew that we saw just outside of the bridge that was really surging past those other two entries. Well rowed. Good effort here, really getting to that line. Working together to get the oars in and push. Coxswain remaining calm here. This crew also making a jump in the rate to try and just get that boat across the finish line, squeeze out those last couple seconds, shut off some time. This is going to be Greater Lawrence coming into view here, coached by Bob Sheets. Another strong wave, strong charge from these women's eights coming down. With 6 bound numbers to go. It's anybody's race here. And this is going to be Stonington coming in. And as the eights of women start to finish up, we're going to switch over and catch the men's first varsity eights. Starting to charge through that bridge, charging by Regatta Point Park as they make their way up to the finish line at Donahue Rowing Center. Good swing here from that boat in blue. Really starting to make some moves and put some pressure on that hull in front of them. This is going to be Old Lime coming past us now. And CRI, nice strong charge here. Good cadence, a little bit higher than a couple of the other crews out there. Looks pretty smooth. Looks like they're setting themselves up to really just kick in and continue to step into that higher gear, higher cadence as they get closer to the finish. East Bay coming into view here. Nice long stretch with a challenge from that coxswain's looking over and just, feeding their athletes information of, taking seats, stroke by stroke. Let's go ahead and move up through that boat, past that bow ball, going from 4-seat to 3-seat. Really nice move, starting to overtake that far crew. We're going to switch back over to the finish to start to catch the men's varsity eights and the ends of the women. Far crew over there is going to be bound number 543, Boston College High School of the men's eights, followed by Westford Academy of the women's eights that just finished just shy behind them, followed by Fairfield Prep here in the red and white. And we have Brownfield Acton Boxborough, bound number 545, coached by Gary Piandidosi. Gary was a 1976 Olympian, instilling a lot of knowledge in his young athletes, encouraging them to really go for it here as they come into the line. Nice swing here. From the red boat, that looks like it's going to be Stonington. Good charge here from this inside crew, really just pushing by at least one other bow ahead of him in this final charge. As it stands right now, all times have been assigned to the women's varsity 8, and it looks like it's going to be top 3 finishers. CRI in a time of 15:11, Wayland Weston 15:49, Glastonbury 16:30 as your top 3 finishers in the women's varsity 8. Results from today's events can be found at herenow.com. The majority of the morning events have been marked official, but you can see unofficial times at herenow.com for all of the events today and yesterday. Great final push here from these athletes. You see this boat here in the blue hull really going after it, just getting to that finish line. Good press here from CRI. Head coach by Galen Burnick. We see another increase in cadence there just to really get into the line. Nice crisp catches here. This crew a little bit lower in rating, but still getting a lot of length on that. Really just prying that body open. This pack here will likely be the last of the men's varsity 8s. You start to see the launches follow them in. It's still anyone's game with just about 6 entries left to go. Coxswains are looking to really push their crews. Last couple strokes of the event so far. And again, we'll start to see a lot of these crews at future regattas, not only next weekend, but the weekend after at Head of the Charles. Really good job working together. Good teamwork to continue that swing into the bow here. Final strokes for East Bay there. Increase in rating. Yep, final sprint, final push to that line. This inside crew just looking to really make its mark on that far crew. Rowers are going to have that in their eyesight. They're going to be able to look at that other boat and work off of that. The coxswain just keeping that boat on the straight and narrow, off the rudder. Good finish. Good finish here. This crew's a little bit lower in the cadence, but still good length. Really good swing here, keeping those arms long. Challenged a little bit on the inside here from the boat from Westford Academy. And that concludes, unofficially, the races for today. As it stands for the last two events, unofficially, the first three places of the women's varsity 8 go to CRI, Wayland Weston, and Glastonbury. In the men's varsity 8, it's going to be CRI, St. John's, and Wayland Weston. Results from today can be found at herenow.com as well as from yesterday's events. Good luck to all crews continuing their season. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.